Hi,
Hello.
it's Joanne.
Hi, Joanne. How are you?
Good. How are you, Mariola?
I am great.
Oh, good. So Washington's not going to shut down, right?
I hope not.
How weird, huh?
Not will not be, it will not have any federal partners at the meeting.
Ugh.
And our keynote is from the Fed.
Oh,
So we're
no.
in trouble.
Oh, no.
Hi, Joanne.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? This is Christina and Kalisha. Hello.
Ah, hi. Hi. How are you doing?
Well,
Oh,
can you
good.
hear us okay?
We can hear you very well.
Good. Okay. So we're set up then on speakerphone. This is the phone we'll be using. We're able to see the PowerPoint. And then I'll just make sure we can advance our own slides because we'll be doing that, correct?
Yep. Yeah, and when we'll have all presenters, I will mute all lines. And as I said in the, I sent you an email earlier this morning about some steps what to do. So you would have to unmute by pressing pound 6, and we'll test if we can hear each other, okay?
So you will mute us, and only when we go to speak, we press pound 6.
That's right.
Okay.
But I think that if you can unmute on the beginning so we can test if it's working, and then you can mute yourself when you're not speaking. So after I will say that I'm muting all of you, you can press pound 6 to unmute, and then you can mute yourself by pressing star 6.
Pound 6 and star 6.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to do the... Okay. Mariola, are you going to do any kind of introduction?
I think you can go ahead and do some introductions.
Okay, so I'll do the first couple of slides, Christina, and then I'll let you know when I'm turning it over to you, and I'll mute myself.
Sure, thank you. And so pound 6 is to mute, and star 6 is unmute.
That's right.
The way around.
No, the other way around.
The other way around. So star 6 is mute.
Yes.
And pound 6 is unmute.
Yeah. That's right.
Mariola, it's Nancy. Would it help for you to give directions at the beginning, or just about how to use if they have comments, they could type in on the chat and pound
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can put in the chat, but what we'll do, Nancy, we'll mute everybody, and we'll just presenters will unmute. But if this will be not a big group, we can unmute everybody at some point and see if the quality, how is the quality, so people can ask questions without typing into the chat. But we'll start maybe with the chat, typing questions to the chat. So you can just type if you want in the chat. Welcome to the webinar, and if you have questions, please use the chat, and I can type later, mute your, if we'll have like some echo, I will ask people to mute their computer speakers.
Okay, sounds good.
And I will start recording exactly at 3 o'clock, okay? And I guess Joanne will start, right?
Right. And I can tell people to use the chat if they want some help or if they want to ask a question. I can do that.
Excellent. And how about Patty? Is Patty joining us?
I don't know. Is Patty?
No. Patty, I guess she didn't, she's not at Dundalk High School. She didn't make it back in time, but she said she would try and call in if she still could, but I don't see her under there. So I'll take over Patty's side.
Okay. So Christina, you will introduce all the speakers, or Joanne will introduce all the speakers?
Christina, do you mind if I turn it over to you and you can introduce everyone? You can introduce Karen?
Well, should I just introduce myself and Kalisha?
Kalisha, I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And I'll mention you and Patty and Kalisha, and then turn it over to you. But you can do the introductions.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. So one more time, Christina, can you check if you can move the arrows on the bottom?
Sure.
Because I went to the presenter, so you should be able to advance your PowerPoint.
Yep, we've got it.
Excellent. And I have polling questions ready, so we have 3 polling questions.
Thank you.
All right. And I don't know if you got my message, Nancy and Joanne. Lion Johnson from Positive Behavior Support Group, practice group, he actually developed this mini MOOC for practice groups as an alternative way to connect. And he asked for a few minutes on the end of the webinar to show that site.
Oh,
So if it's okay with you, I sent you email this morning about it. I know it's pretty late, but if we have like few minutes, 2 minutes before the end of the webinar, he can share his screen and show the site, and we can send the instructions after the webinar if people are interested. Because we will be posting all the webinars in form of YouTube, so people can really disseminate widely.
So, Christina, are you comfortable turning this over to Mariola at about 20 past 4? Because that's when it's going to...
For which part?
For, what's his name, Mariola?
Lion Johnson.
Lion Johnson wants to show, I guess, a communication tool for the PBIS practice group.
That's not just for PBS, it's for like other practice groups can use too, and that's like all people who want to start to use it. So
okay.
So where do you want that to, can you tell me in relation to the slides where you want me to pause in the presentation?
No. When we finish with the presentation, if we could have like 2 minutes on the end.
Oh, sure.
Oh, just 2 minutes. Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds fine.
Excellent. Lion is on already, so let's make the presenter as well.
So are you okay with us wrapping up at like 10 after, or do you want us to wrap up sooner?
Oh, no, I think it sounds like you have till 25 past 4, right?
Oh, but we'll have some question and answer time.
Yeah.
So we would probably finish around like 10 after, quarter after, and then we'll go to question and answers.
Okay.
Perfect. And we have about 3 minutes.
Yeah. So I think that we are hearing some other conversations. So if you have some noise background, you can mute your line by pressing *6. And now I will go and mute everybody, and I will ask presenters to unmute themselves.
The leader has muted your line. To unmute your line, press #6.
Just checking if the presenters were able to unmute their line.
Can you hear me, Mariola? It's Joanne.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, good. I unmuted my line.
How about Christina?
Can you hear us?
Christina,
Oh,
yes?
Yeah, good.
Okay.
That's the part that didn't work last time, so that's great.
Oh, Nancy.
Yep, I'm here.
Excellent. Thank
But
you.
I'm going to mute because I have a lot of sirens in the background.
Thank you. Excellent. And when Lion will get his audio, if Lion, if you can say hi, we can know if you are connected well. To unmute Lion, #6, and when you're not talking, you can mute yourself by pressing *6. Okay, we'll I guess, check with Lion later. So we have 1 minute. We'll be starting this webinar soon. So many people are joining.
Mariola.
Yes,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you could hear me.
I can hear you. Excellent. Thank you, Liam.
All right,
So
thank
we'll
you.
have a few minutes on the end of this webinar to promote the mini-MOOC.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so you can mute yourself by pressing *6, and on the end of the webinar you can unmute yourself again, okay?
Okay, so the presenters will go for about how many minutes?
Like up to probably like a little over an hour, and then we'll have 10 minutes for questions, so we should be done by 4:25.
And what point will I go over the mini MOOC? During the question and answer, before?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
After the questions and answers regarding the webinar.
Okay.
It's okay?
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Joanne Malloy from the Institute on Disability at UNH, and I am one of the co-facilitators of the Connecting School Mental Health and Juvenile Justice and Dropout Prevention Practice Group of the National Community of Practice on School Behavioral Health. That's a mouthful, but I want to welcome you to this exciting webinar from our friends in Maryland. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the webinar and our community of practice. We are part of the IDEA partnership, which there's a website with many communities of national communities of practice, local communities of practice, state-level communities, as well as practice groups. And the community of practice is co-facilitated by the IDEA partnership and the Center for School Mental Health. The community of practice concerned with school behavioral health. This webinar is co-sponsored by 3 practice groups of that community of practice. Number 1, the Connecting School Mental Health with Juvenile Justice and Dropout Prevention, the Quality and Evidence-Based Practice Group, and Connecting School Mental Health and Positive Behavior Support. So you see them on your screen. I'm not going to go through the details, but they're easily accessible information on the practice groups and the larger community of practice on the Shared Work website, www.sharedwork, SHAREDWORK.org. And the IDEA partnership sponsors all of this work, and using the system to communicate your questions. Down in the lower right-hand box, you see a chat area. If you put your cursor in the bottom box that's white, you can type in questions. If you're having technical issues or you have questions for the presenter, just type them in there and the presenters will see them. It's very easy to use, and we're really excited to have today's participants to talk with us about school climate and have school climate is defined in their project using a structure for targeting areas of need in any given school, selecting evidence-based practices that align with those needs, and measuring improvement. Very good, efficient, and effective structure for improving school climate. Today we'll hear about frontline school climate-related experience in Dundalk High School in Maryland. Maryland received a U.S. Department of Education grant for safe school and supportive schools to support this work to implement evidence-based practices in 31 high schools. The three presenters, or the two presenters today, are Christina Jordan, who is a school climate specialist with the project at Shepherd Pratt Health System, and Kalisha Miller, who is assistant principal at Dundalk High School in Baltimore County, Maryland. And I also want to recognize Patty Hirschfeld, who is the assistant director of training and TA for the Maryland Safe and Supportive Schools Initiative. Patty may be joining the presenters a little later. So, Christina, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to mute my line. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, Joanne. And we're excited to be able to share some of the work that this Exemplar High School in the project has been doing to work on school climate. We'll talk just a little bit about the project and what our main goals in the entire project are, and then more specifically what this high school has done in terms of improving school climate and specifically student engagement. First, we wanted to do a polling question to get some feedback from participants on whether or not they're working currently with high school implementation of social, emotional, behavioral, and/or mental health related evidence-based practices. All right, it looks like we have about 2/3 of our participants working with high schools, specifically related to evidence-based practices for social, emotional, and behavioral health. Thanks for participating. Our work here in Maryland involves several stakeholders because we are doing a project-wide implementation of evidence-based practices and study of school climate. So we work with the Maryland State Department of Education, Johns Hopkins University, who does the research and evaluation, and developed our climate survey. We work with University of Maryland, the Center for School Mental Health, who helps Shepherd Pratt Health System in training and providing technical assistance for the evidence-based practices that we endorse. We do use these goals to set the framework. Really what we're looking to do is measure 3 domains of school climate and then provide the schools with data, training, and technical assistance in implementing the evidence-based programs that meet the needs of the students based on the data that we have from the climate survey and some other tools which we'll talk about. Basically, we are developing healthy students who are available for learning. This is just a little more in-depth about our partnerships and working with the State Department, the local school systems, and then being flexible with it, even within the district, to the schools and sensitive to specific school needs. We have a variety of schools and districts in the project. So we are not in every district in Maryland, but we're in many. Many are located in the central area of Maryland, but we represent a variety of different locations. We have urban, suburban, and more rural locations, different capacities in the schools, small buildings, large buildings, schools with over 2,000 students, schools with under 600 students. They are all high schools. And then schools with very different needs. So whether it's looking at the staff needs, the student populations, we really try and use the same framework of school climate, but tailor it to the schools. This is the framework that we use, and this is from the U.S. Department of Education. The 3 domains that we're looking for as far as school climate is student engagement, school safety, physical safety, emotional safety, and also the school environment, the academic environment, the physical environment, the disciplinary environment, and overall wellness. And really, we've seen a lot of momentum behind the engagement piece of school climate because I think schools have really bought into the fact that student engagement directly impacts academic success, high school completion, attendance rates in school, and decreasing risk behaviors for students. And that's where much of the work at Dundalk High School has been focused. So the way that we measure school climate is through the School Climate Survey, which was developed by Johns Hopkins. We have student, staff, and parent input, and it does look at several subscales under each of those three larger categories of safety, engagement, and environment. We get input about physical safety in the building, emotional wellness, relationships and connectedness to the building and between staff and students and between students, the school participation and community involvement, parental involvement, the inclusiveness and orderly environment of the building, and what support services are offered for students. And then, based on the data that we have, we develop action plans. And really, the role of the coach and the school climate specialist, I feel like I'm really a positive nag in the building, just trying to keep student engagement, safety, and environment at the forefront of the work that the school does, and aligning it with other initiatives that are coming down. So the schools have a lot of different focuses, whether it's new academic content, maybe some new district programs that are being implemented, and since school climate is really a piece of a bigger picture, it's sort of our role to fit this into with what the schools are already doing. Whether that's bringing support and resources, training and evidence-based programs, or facilitating problem solving when we meet as an MDS3 or a school climate team, it really does vary, but I really see our role as pulling out the good stuff that the schools already do, highlighting that, and then finding where the needs are and making what needs to happen to move the school forward happen. We use sort of a three-pronged problem-solving approach to school climate, and that is using data efficiently and effectively to do our action planning, making the data relevant, pulling out all the pieces that are important, making it make sense, supporting staff so that the action plans and the action steps that we come up with can be sustained and that resources can be used effectively, and then making appropriate changes to support student needs, and again, to make students available for learning. I spoke a little bit about school climate being part of a larger picture, and again, when we're looking at outcomes and setting goals for school climate and increasing student engagement and ultimately high school completion, we have to consider the context of the school. So we link what we're doing for school climate in with the student improvement plan, or I'm sorry, the school improvement plan. We also look at some larger community goals. Dundalk has done a lot of work with getting the community involved and helping get active members of the community to help move us forward as a school. And then just looking at specifically what the context of the school is. Is it a school with high staff turnover and we really need to focus a lot on the systems? Is it a school with either a transient or a military or urban student population, and then we're frequently needing to teach and reteach and reinforce any new behaviors or behavior supports that we want to see? If it's a school in a rural or an isolated setting with limited access to resources, then our focus would be on pulling the community in, and then looking at if there's other stakeholders that we need to get involved in our action planning. And when we're looking at changing school climate and changing the school environment, really what we're looking at is molding the staff knowledge, skills, and attitude. So whether it's delivering information through the data that we collect the various tools that we use to collect data on school climate and student engagement, or conducting a training in evidence-based practices, or doing some fidelity checks to kind of hone our system or our practices in a specific area. Also, teaching, reinforcing, and expanding the skill set of the staff. So as far as keeping students safe, engaged, and available for learning, oftentimes as educators, we really do have the knowledge that we need, but if there's specific skills that we need to practice, that's what we do through some of our training and our professional development. And then also creating a culture within and among staff that these three domains of safety, engagement, and environment are as important as academic content. And I think that's something that Dundalk does a great job of doing. One of the ways we do this is I talked about sort of pulling out those hidden resources. And staff have expertise in many, many, many different areas. So what we try and do is get a lot of collaboration among the staff. So we have a mentoring program, which almost a third of the staff is involved in at Dundalk High School. And one of the things that we did was through our monthly meetings, we came up with some obstacles that the mentors were meeting with. One of them was getting students to come to school on time. One was encouraging the students to check in on a more consistent basis. And the other one was encouraging students to check back at the end of the day, which was a part of the program. So we heard from mentors that those were their three biggest needs. And so what we did was we asked mentors to sign up for a focus group. We had over 30 mentors in the program, and now got at least 10 in each group, and then had that staff problem solve. They know, they have the knowledge of what needs to be done, but we had them sort of list some specific skills and some specific action steps that the mentors can take to help overcome this barrier. And this is something that we found really helpful, and we've then done this with other programs and any other barriers that we've come up with. We kind of just use this collective intelligence of the group to share the great ideas that the staff kind of already had in the back of their mind, but just making it more specific and more concrete. And then sharing this knowledge. So all of the 30 mentors, no matter which group they were in, got to sort of get these helpful hints from the other mentors. And I think that's a big support that we have here at Dundalk High School, is using everyone on the staff to be able to share these best practices with each other and embrace them. So I wanted to get an idea of what ways your organization or your school building uses data to guide social emotional learning. I know data is used to drive academic instruction often, so I wanted to see how schools are using data to guide social emotional learning goals and or school-wide behavioral support. So some of the ways, I'll give participants some time to be able to answer here. I think sometimes this can be a barrier when thinking about using data for social emotional learning goals, or even when looking at school-wide behavioral supports. It may seem like, oh my gosh, where do we start? There's so much that we could use and so much that we could look at, that when you focus on what are your targets here, and make this a priority as well as the academic content data. Important. So I'll share one of the ways that we have used data to guide social emotional learning goals and school-wide behavior supports. So I have listed here data crosswalks, telling the story, zoom in, zoom out, and share the data. The first thing that I'll share is the data crosswalk. So in the beginning, I referenced the various tools that we use to measure school climate, and it can seem overwhelming. Our school climate survey has, I think, over 50 questions on it, and we're looking at students, staff, and parent responses. So just the climate survey in itself can seem overwhelming. And then we also have site visit data, which comes from outside observers. We have the school-wide evaluation tool that's used, the individual student systems evaluation tool, and then data from the school in terms of attendance rates, graduation rates, discipline referrals. So with all this, we sort of have to sort through and get a big picture of what this school story is. So one of the things we use with the data crosswalk, we focus on safety, engagement, environment, and you can pull pieces of safety, engagement, environment domains out of each of these tools. But then we wanted to get a crosswalk of how each of these assessments gives us a piece of what safety in this school looks like. What is engagement? Where are our strengths? Where are our needs? So this is just one of the ways we did that with a data crosswalk, and we walked through this with our teams at one of our summer trainings, and then we've had teams reference this throughout the year. The other thing that we found helpful is zooming in and zooming out, which is looking at, when we're talking about zooming out, that's sort of getting a snapshot, a big picture of what's going on school-wide, right? And we have all the numbers and the percentages on what student perceptions are around safety, engagement, environment. But then we also find it helpful to zoom in and look at an individual student story, how they were impacted by a specific intervention or an event at the school, so that we're able to see that we want to, on a large scale, impact the entire school building, but those individual stories of how we're helping students really makes a big impact as well. And sharing the data with the staff. The whole staff is on board with improving school climate, so we want to share our successes. Dundalk High School was able to see a 10% increase in students saying that they like this school. They saw an 11% increase in students saying that the school tries to involve parents and guardians, as well as a 10% increase in students reporting that they're able to get help for their problems through school. So this is the effort that the staff is doing is making a huge difference for the students, and we want to be able to share that and to let the staff know that what they're doing is making a big impact. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is increase the protective factors for students. We want to teach some of these resiliency skills to individual students, but we also want to make the school building a place, an environment that is in itself a protective factor. So a stable and predictive environment where there are clear expectations for students. There are people who care about them, and they're able to form relationships with the staff. And staff serve as role models, teaching and reinforcing and giving students opportunity to practice skills to be successful not only in school but in life. And then getting feedback from their role models, from these teachers who care about them on how they're doing with these skills. One of the things that we've done is a mentoring program modeled after Check-In, Check-Out, which we call the OWL Leadership Academy. And an activity that they did was we partnered with the Dundalk Renaissance Corporation, which is a community organization that works on community improvement. And the students who were in the mentoring program and their mentors went out into the community and did a community cleanup. It was a simple, easy activity to organize, but it was so impactful. The students were able to see their mentors, their role models, modeling this behavior of being a leader, making a difference in the community. They were able to connect with the staff outside of the school building. They were able to connect with their peers outside of the school building, doing an activity that's a leadership activity. They're helping the community. I think this can be considered a healthy behavior, and they're connecting with their peers while they're doing it. And then they also were able to connect with the community. The people who volunteer for the Dundalk Renaissance Corporation are community members. And the students got a lot of feedback from community members as they were cleaning up on how great this was and how much the community appreciated what they were doing, which again just helped the students build a sense of belonging in that community, helped them feel confident in what they were doing, and also it made their academics relevant. Students who were taking environmental science classes and learning about keeping the local watershed clean were able to then bring that and make the connection in this activity. So again, just something that seemed small but had a big impact as far as building some protective factors in this student subgroup. And I am going to let Mrs. Miller talk more in detail about the wonderful things that Dundalk High School is doing.
First, I'd like to start to give everyone an idea and a profile behind our school. Our enrollment last year was 1,228 students. I can tell you that our current enrollment this year, we're already at 1,360 students. So our enrollment has increased significantly for us this year. Our graduation rate for 2011 was 71%. Our graduation rate for the 2012 school year was 74.8. And that was the first year, this is the first year that our graduation rate is truly reflective of that cohort model. So we are very proud that we did have almost a 4% increase in our graduation rate over the past year. Dundalk High School is located in the southeastern part of Baltimore County. We are one of 25 high schools in our district, and our district is actually the 26th largest school district in the United States. Just to give you an idea, we have a high mobility rate, and you can also see we have a very high farms rate and a special education rate in our school. This slide shows you the experience levels of the teachers in our school, and you can see from the slides that the majority of our teachers have 5 or less years as a teacher. And in the state of Maryland, for us to become tenured, you have to have 3 years. So as you can see, the majority of our staff are not tenured teachers. So we have a polling question. In your building, district, or center, how involved is the community in supporting schools, students, and staff toward improving school climate and dropout prevention efforts?
Okay, so it looks like the community supports the concept of improving school climate and reducing dropout prevention, but needs some guidance to become more involved is where the majority of participants stand. And I feel that Dundalk High School is probably in a similar situation.
Some of the challenges that we face every day, of course, every school has challenges that you face. One of the philosophies of our principal, Mr. Scholdice, is that while we have challenges, they will not define our school. So one of the biggest challenges that I think that we have is we have a very transit student population. So we have kids coming in and out all the time. And what that has caused us to do here in our high school is to be very flexible in terms of meeting the needs of the students. But also, because of the new graduation cohort rate, it's really caused us to rethink how we look at students. And in our school, we really don't think about students in terms of actual grade levels. We think about students in terms of their graduation date. So when a student enters, what is their cohort? Should they graduate in 2015? And if that's their graduation date, what is it that we need to do as a school to help that student reach their graduation date? Another challenge that we face is staff turnover. Because we have such a young staff, we do have staff members who decide that maybe the teaching profession isn't for them, or we have staff that stay and then decide they want to change because of the type of students that we deal with on a daily basis. Another challenge that we face, and I think it can also come from having young staff, is that we have staff that are very involved and busy, of course, in other activities outside of the school. Another challenge that we face is that we have a English as a second language center in our school. We have students from over 200 countries in our school. Some of the students that come to us, when they come to us, they don't speak any English. So that is a challenge that our staff face daily in how to make connections with students from other countries. Another challenge that we also face is that we have a very large special education population. Currently, 19% of our total student body receives special education services. Our district average is only 11%. So we are well above the district average in terms of the number of students that we serve for special education. And of course, federal, state, and district initiatives, Common Core. In Baltimore County, we actually had a superintendent for 12 years. And last year, we got a new superintendent. So getting to know our new superintendent and the new initiatives that he is bringing forward in our district. And I think for this year, probably our biggest challenge that we have faced, we moved into a brand new building this year. We kind of have a unique setup. We are in a building with another high school. We are in a building with Silas Point Technical High School, and it is a technical high school that has a number of different trades. So for us, the challenge into moving in was not only moving into a new building, not being familiar with the building, but also having another school in the building and kind of having to teach their staff about our safe and supportive schools and all the initiatives that we have going on in our school to help with the culture in the building. Some of our strengths definitely would have to be the administrative support. It's kind of interesting, and I think it is a testament to the stability of this program in our school. I started as assistant principal in the building in May, and one of my duties was to take over this initiative. But because of the administrative support and the committed staff that we have, systems were already set in place and it's very evident when you walk into our school that we are a PBIS school and that we promote positive behavior for our students. Another strength that we have, I think two of the biggest, is that we have a very responsive staff. We have a very responsive student body. Although, you know, we're a school that has a high level of students in poverty, our students, once they feel a connection, really are responsive to our staff and the need and what we need to do to move them forward to their ultimate goal of graduation and then life outside of Baltimore County Public Schools. So our school climate dropout prevention efforts are focused really around three things: safety, so our students' well-being, their engagement, relationships, connectedness, involving parents in the community, and the environment. You know, we notice you, we want you here to learn, to succeed, and to have support. So some of our school-wide universal supports, we start with positive behavior interventions and supports. And some of the, I'll just give you some examples of some of the things that we do for our PBIS. We also integrate what we call the Virtues Project. So every month we identify a virtue that we would like for students to focus on. So for the month of September, because we're in a new building, our focus was respect for our environment, with our school building being our environment. Our mascot is the Dundalk Owl. So we have what we call the hoots. And a hoot is just a ticket that we give to students when we notice that they are exhibiting positive behavior. So for the month of September, anytime we notice students that are picking up trash, for example, in the cafeteria, making sure that their tables are clean, we can give the students a hoot. And at the end of the month, we have raffles for students who've actually received hoots. We have prizes for students that receive hoots. We have an ABC club, and that is a club that we do every quarter for students who have all A's, B's, and C's. They can only have less than 4 absences for the quarter. And at the end of the quarter, we have a little celebration for them. They receive a certificate for that. Another positive behavior intervention and support that we have in our building, and I think that is key, is our mentoring. I would say at least 85% of our staff all have students that we are mentoring. And we use the data. Our school system has a very in-depth database, and we actually use Cognos, and we have a dropout prevention cube. And it actually starts with the students when they're in 3rd grade. So, for example, students are flagged when they have high attendance, they're not passing our statewide assessments, or they have failed an actual grade. And so by the time they get to us, we have a whole list of kids who have been identified as potential dropouts. So those are the students that we first look to assigning a mentor from the day they walk into our school, so that they can have someone that they are connected to in our building. The next big school-wide support is that we are part of the Alveus Bullying Prevention Program. Actually, this week, we just finished up with our kickoff program for that. And in this program, we are working with students to teach them how to stand up to bullying, not to be a bystander, giving them very specific guidelines on how to address bullying if they see it, how to go to adults, and how to just be nice. Our slogan for this year is stand up, hey Dundalk, stand up, just be nice. And how to make students that you see that are left out to feel connected. Also, we have the Boniva Life Skills Program, And this program really teaches students how to handle stress, difficult situations, and we also talk about the risks involved, health risks involved, substance abuse, and just really looking at overall their whole well-being as a student. And again, this slide just demonstrates, as I said, we started our bullying prevention kickoff this week, and our slogan for this year is Stand Up, Get Up, Dundalk, Just Be Nice. So some of our targeted supports, the majority of our staff, as I said, are involved in our mentoring program, the Check and Connect, our CICO, and AVID. We have early screening and identification. Again, that goes back to our data warehouse that we have in our district, where we're identifying kids even before they walk through our door, students that will need mentors. We use existing tools in our county data, Mentoring Life Skills AVID. We also have Advanced Path, which is an alternative program for students who are having difficulty with that traditional comprehensive high school. It's a self-paced program, computer-based, that allows students to receive credits in content areas. So we do have that program here, so we are able to identify certain students who, without the use of Advanced Path, potentially would not graduate from high school. We also provide monthly training and continuous technical assistance to our staff.
This is just to illustrate how much of the staff is involved in our targeted supports. Obviously, all staff is involved in the school-wide supports, but we really have a lot of people on board who wanted to be a part of a targeted intervention, whether it was our check-in, check-out, which we call our Leadership Academy, part of the Check and Connect mentoring program that we do, running groups for Box and Life Skills program, and we really had a lot of staff get on board this year in our newest school-wide support, which was the All-Day Bullying Prevention Program. So I think that makes all the difference when all the staff want to be a part of creating a safe and supportive environment for the students.
So our intense individualized interventions, I think that our motto here is definitely whatever is needed to support our students. Our staff go above and beyond to support our students in any way possible. We have layered supports where, a student, may have a mentor, and the mentor is emailing teachers, to find out how the student is doing. We try to get our students involved in sports. We have a very strong athletic department which fully supports students, not just in the athletic arena, but also in the academic arena, in making sure that they are student athletes. Continued target supports and added individualized interventions. Again, back to our early intervention and keeping all staff involved in youth natural supports. And I wanted to address a question. Someone asked, are you providing incentives for the staff to sign up for the mentoring? Actually, we don't. We actually just, at the beginning of the year, during our first week back to school, we had a whole training around our MDS3 PBIS. We talk about what the mentoring is, and we really ask for volunteers. So we really don't give any kind of incentives. Yes, through the course of the year, we may do things where, we provide pizza for the mentors when we have a meeting, but we don't have any incentives just for them to sign up.
But I will say that how supportive the administration is, the principal and all the assistant principals, give kudos to the staff who was involved and who they know are supporting kids. And so in and of itself, I think that is an incentive, that they understand that their administration knows that they're stretched thin, and they know that they are going above and beyond for students, and then doing something even additional through mentoring, that I think it makes a difference to the staff to know that their administration appreciates it. And honestly, another incentive is hearing from the kids. These are some of the things that the students say about mentoring or about the BOTS and Life Skills program, and these are the things as educators that make our day. We've had the students who are who are being mentored. We sort of did an interview with those students and got some feedback from them. They did a video for their mentors at the end of the year that the mentors got to watch, and I think that every single mentor who mentored the first year wanted to mentor the second and third year, and then also sort of brought their friends in and expanded our mentoring program, because we get into education because we like kids and we want to help kids. And hearing that we've helped a student out and helped them become more resilient or helped them get through a tough time is a reward. And so these are just some of the things that the students have said about either the mentoring program or PBIS supports or our All-Day Bullying Prevention Program or being part of the life skills curriculum. One student who gave feedback after getting life skills said, before I didn't know how to control my anger, now I know how to take a break before I talk if I'm really mad. And she actually said that to a teacher that she had not been necessarily cooperating with. And then, came up with her own coping strategies through this program, told the teacher, I know when I need to take a break, and so that her classroom teacher was able to give feedback to the BOTS and Life Skills instructor on, the fact that the program did work. Other students were saying, my mentor helps me think of different solutions to a problem and pick the right one. We really encourage the mentors not to be the problem solver for the youth, but to help them become a problem solver. And then being in the program helps me stay motivated and get good grades. When I finish high school, I want to go to a four-year college. And the students who are being mentored, we always say, they have the skills that they need. They maybe just need more support in pulling those out. And we take that approach when we're supporting the mentors as well. They're educators. They know how to support kids, but we need to help them hone their skills, organize the program, evaluate the program to be more supportive to students.
So basically the way we do things, I think first and foremost, is care for kids. That's just our motto here. And I mean, you can look at our demographics. We have a very diverse population. We have a large number of students who live in poverty. So on some days, that's a little bit difficult. But I think our staff, we're truly committed to caring about our kids and just providing them the support that they need. I think for teachers, when they come to our school building as part of our interview process, administrators, we really talk about our students. We're very honest about some of the challenges that we have. So the teachers know entering into our building, teaching is not an 8-hour-a-day job in any school. But for our school, it's definitely not, it doesn't end when the students walk out the door. So I think by being very honest with teachers when they interview to come in our school, they understand coming in kind of what's expected of them. We do constant screening and monitoring of our students, because we have a high transit population. We're getting new students all the time, so we're monitoring them, determining if, they need mentors with additional supports and resources they need to be successful in our school. We have a shared responsibility and shared ownership. Even if you're a teacher that chooses not to actually have kids that you mentor, teachers understand their responsibility, and also making sure that they're holding kids accountable and making sure that they're communicating with the mentors whenever there are any issues with the students. We always give kudos as administrative staff to teachers that are going above and beyond. Kudos to our committee. We have a phenomenal MDS3 PBIS committee of teachers. And I can tell you, they're not paid any extra. They do get a stipend in the summer for some of their planning, but they're not paid any extra, and they meet in the summer. We meet after school. And it's, as we're sitting here speaking, we received an email from one of our committee members with an idea saying they wanted to create a template as a thank you for teachers who go above and beyond, for teachers who, help with our bullying kickoff this week, for teachers who help when we have our ABC club. So I think it's really the committed staff that we have, and then always making sure that as administrators, we are appreciating our staff and letting them know how thankful we are for what they do. We also make sure that everything we do is aligned with initiatives. It's aligned with our blueprint for progress, which is our guiding document in our district. And pretty much spreading the wealth. I think for us this year, what's been kind of neat is to have another school in our building, and they absolutely had no background in PBIS, was not a PBIS school. So it was important for us to make sure that they were fully on board because we share a building. So it's two schools in one building, but we're one building. So it's been an experience for us, but it's been fun to teach another staff about PBIS, what it means, how can they get involved, and just see the positive reaction that they have in seeing how we can support all of our students in a positive way.
And I wanted to talk about, before I hit on some sustainability, about our journey of implementation, because this is a school that has really gone above and beyond and embraced the concept of improving school climate. And when I talk to some of the other schools that I coach, and some of the other schools in the project, it almost seems overwhelming, everything that Dundalk High School has taken on. And it has been a journey. We started off year one with getting the climate survey data, which the staff just totally ate up, dug into, and was all about looking into the data. And then, of course, wanted to do everything that they could to and implement every program they could to improve school climate. So what we really had to do in the first year was sort of triage and say, okay, where is our greatest need right now? And not only where is our greatest need, but what do we have the capacity to support? What can we do? What can we handle here? And where do we start? And so our first year was really a look at the data, and then quick action planning. We got the survey data over the summer, and in July, I think. And the school, the team had an action plan by the end of that month. And we started off, we sort of had to slow things down and say, okay, we're not going to start implementing every single evidence-based practice that we're able to train in right away, but we can certainly build and build and build. And we did start with our targeted support, which was the mentoring program, check-in, check-out based mentoring program. The school had already been a PBIS school, but I think it's important that when you are a PBIS school that you're constantly evaluating, is this working for our building right now? And that ended up being one of the things that we had to come back to. We provided this targeted support of mentoring, and when we did our database decision making for who was going to be in the program, we realized, well, we have more students than we can service, which means we have to go back to Tier 1 to our school-wide support. And so that was something we had to bring on it is a school with high staff turnover. And so the people who had started and led the PBIS committee, some of them had moved on to other buildings, and we had to be able to grow the team. So then again, we went to building the systems and building our Tier 1 supports, while also working on providing a Tier 2 support. In year 2, I think our big focus was on fidelity. So in year 1, we were able to focus on implementation and building a team, an MDS3 team or a school climate team. In year 2, once we had gotten some programs up and running, we were able to look at fidelity and how are we doing? Is our program making an impact? What do we need to change in order to reach the outcomes? And our focus was really on fidelity in year 2. And then at the end of year 2, we had, again, a lot of staff turnover. So almost all the people who had coordinated a targeted intervention on our MDS3 team had been promoted. So we had to go back to our systems in year 3, well, quickly actually in the summer between year 2 and year 3. And we had to, when we talk about spreading the wealth, we had to take the people who were still on the team and who were strong and get them to recruit other staff members who they knew would be able to develop relationship with students and who we knew would be able to influence other staff members. And then we had to train them and support them in becoming part of a team. So we went back sort of to the systems piece, but that is why this school will sustain their dropout prevention, student engagement, and school climate improvement efforts, because this is the way things are done in the building. As new staff come in, they'll hop on board, they'll be trained, and they will be supported. We don't do sort of a train and hope model. Every targeted intervention gets monthly program evaluation, and we do full staff training several times a year so that even the people who are not involved in a targeted intervention know what's going on. And we do trainings for each of those evidence-based programs at least twice a year as well. And so year 3, I feel like, has been a focus, we're in year 3 now, has been a focus on sustainability, being able to have capacity in the building among the staff so that once the grant is over, these great things that the school has done to improve school climate will continue. So one of those things has been getting some people from the district to be involved in technical assistance. We've had people from student support services and staff from the district get trained in these evidence-based interventions so that when the school climate specialists are not here to be able to support and train and do progress monitoring and fidelity checks, we have the district who's able to do this. And then also the district is able to give feedback to the schools and how they're doing and give kudos to the schools in everything they're doing to improve school climate. A huge thing has been this shared responsibility. We had coordinators of our targeted interventions, whether it was the life skills program, mentoring, or our school-wide interventions of PBIS and all-day bullying prevention. We used to have one coordinator for each of those interventions, and now we have at least 2 coordinators, and then everyone else has their specific role or responsibility, so that as people leave, we can fill those roles with another staff member, and those roles are clearly defined. We've taken some of the evidence-based practices, which have sort of, a manual, framework, and outline, and we've made school-specific. What does check-in, check-out look like at this school? What does check-in connect look like at this school? What does LVAS look like at this school? What does PBIS look like at this school? So that it's very clear of what each of these programs means for Dundalk High School. And continued staff development and continued staff support is always something that's important. We've been trying to do a lot more social marketing this year also, as far as recruiting staff and the community. So we do have this strong partnership with the Dundalk Renaissance Corporation. We're hoping to get some students at the community college to become mentors and help lead some of our help lead the student leadership activities. We've done a lot of resource mapping to see, okay, we do have all these supports that are, coming either from the district or from the community. How do they map one to what we're doing for school climate? How do they map one to what we're doing in terms of increasing high school completion? And really what's helped with that is getting some youth-led programs. The students do the best social marketing for us, so we're really trying to increase the student voice, bring students onto our school climate committee, have a student-led anti-bullying committee, and get their input when we sit and plan as a staff about what we can do to support student behaviors or what we can do to help students feel motivated towards graduation. Sometimes we can go around as a staff for 15 minutes trying to think of an idea, and when we recently brought some students in, it's like in 5 minutes they have the solution for us. So we found that to be really eye-opening that, okay, we're servicing the kids, let's get the kids to tell us what's going to work. And so we think that's really actually going to save us a lot of time in terms of planning for this year and next year as we continue on with our improvements in school climate.
I'd like to address one of the questions, and the question was, how is it that you're able to fit in all of this professional development with the adoption of Common Core, a new statewide teacher evaluation protocol? I would love to see comprehensive school climate training, but I'm told that there's not enough PD time. Well, what we do, I think it has to be a priority in the school. And for us, it is a priority for our principal. So, for example, during the first week that teachers were back to school, when we as administrators sat down to plan that week, MDS3 and PBIS was on the table just as much as Common Core and the teacher evaluation system. So we had different times during the week where we did training on all of our programs. One of the things that we also do, each teacher receives a notebook, and it is divided up by all of our programs. We put resources, we talk about what the program is, just as a way of teachers if they kind of forget, well, I can just go back to my notebook. But as part of our monthly faculty meetings, we always have a piece about MDS3 and PBIS. So we really just fit it in monthly at our meetings. We do a lot through, just having daily interactions with our teachers. And like I said, our committee is wonderful. So when we see a new teacher that's struggling or really don't understand some of the concepts, it's a little bit of one-to-one PD with that individual teacher during the day to help them understand, but also modeling what we mean by creating a positive environment for students.
And it's not all, an 8-hour or 4-hour or even 2-hour professional development. Sometimes it's at a full faculty meeting, standing up, giving a piece, maybe just one piece of data from the climate survey, talking about how we've moved the data in a positive direction, and then an exemplar staff member who is either really good at forming student relationships or really good at making sure that the hallways are supervised and students are safe, just giving up and giving a quick helpful hint. So sometimes it takes as little as 5 minutes just to keep that fresh and to share skills. We really talk about sharing the wealth in this collective intelligence of all these skills and expertise areas that the staff has, but spreading that so that everyone is working on best practices as an educator. And I think we may be ready for some questions and answers.
Hello, this is Lion. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just had a question as far as finding time to go over information or training. Have you all looked at different ways to do it rather than just kind of face-to-face, or have you all explored different ways, because time is that real precious commodity, especially when you're trying to get face-to-face.
Yes, we actually have a broadcast studio in our new building. So one of the things that we are definitely doing this year is that we are able to tape a professional development session and then have it put on our district's, we call it Safari Montage, and teachers can then go and watch the training at their leisure. So that is something that we are doing this year as well.
And we've also looked into, because we do have staff who want to become more involved that are maybe coaches or, or their coach classes on the days that we have our mentoring meetings. So we've looked at setting up sort of a cyberspace meeting room where we post our meeting agenda and have staff comment with their questions, besides some of these agenda items. And after we get everyone, all staff's input, and we sort of know what we want to go over ahead of time, we have maybe a 20-minute meeting instead of an hour and 20-minute meeting, because we've gotten feedback from everyone, in that cyber meeting room, if you will. And then another thing that we've done is we talked about getting mentor feedback and problem solving around where they're finding barriers and obstacles. So we use a SurveyMonkey actually to get, because we have 30 mentors, and we do want to hear from all of them. So we ask questions about student engagement and about program, what they think about how the program's working through SurveyMonkey, which they have about 3 days to take the survey and comment back. And so that way when we come to the meeting, we're prepared and already know what their challenges are rather than sort of opening it up for discussion with no baseline at the meeting. We have all that information ahead of time. So those have been 2 ways that we've helped save a little bit of time for the staff. We also found, again, the committee is amazing, but we have representation from almost every content department on our MDS3 team, and so a lot of the information that we need to share is shared at department meetings. So one of the things the school has done, and I mentioned there has been a 10% increase in students saying that the school tries to influence parents or guardians. One of the things that the school did was ask that each department send a positive postcard home to parents every month. And so each staff member sends a positive note home to 3 students, and they turn those positive postcards into their department chair. And then the department chair manages their department, sort of posts the results of that onto a shared Excel spreadsheet, and then it's managed that way, and we're not trying to do that at even a separate meeting. So we've infused it into the content or department meetings as well. And we got a question about school climate. Has our school climate initiative had an impact on parent involvement in the school? And I'll certainly comment as far as the data, and I will let Mrs. Miller comment on some anecdotal pieces.
Yes, I think it has. I think our parents in our community want to be involved. Sometimes they don't know how to get involved. And I also think sometimes that our parents are so used to hearing from the school when it's a negative thing. So I think one of the things that has really impacted our parent involvement is the positive postcards that we send home. because what we really try to focus on is that positive behavior support. So we want parents to not always get a call from the school about something negative, but a positive initiative. I also think that because we're in a new building, as I said, we're the 26th largest school district in the United States, and we have over 175 schools. And, you know, not a lot of new schools are built. So it was a really big deal for our community to have this brand new school. I think it's one of the first in our state with the 2 schools in 1. So that's really had an impact as well on our community and their parent involvement in our community, and parents wanting to be part of this new building and helping us to continue a positive climate in this new building.
And as far as what students are reporting on the school climate survey, we did mention that that there was a 10% increase in students stating that the school tries to involve their parents or guardians. We also, with the positive postcards, implemented another idea, which was when we had parent-teacher conference night. Of course, we wanted to increase the number of parents who showed up to parent-teacher conference night. So what we also had the departments do was each teacher had to, or was asked to, personally send a personal handwritten invitation home to parents, inviting them to come to the parent-teacher conference night. And we just asked that it wasn't something like, we need to see you, your student is failing my class, but that it was framed in a positive way. And we had, of course, since we're so data-driven at this school, we also did a survey for the parents who showed up to the parent-teacher conference night and asked how many of them came because of the personal invitation. And we had almost a little over 75% say that is why they came. So I do think that that what we've implemented in terms of school climate has had a positive impact on parent involvement. But that's another thing that we still want to work on. It's not where we want it to be, and we're going to continue to use what input parents are giving us and use ideas from the students to make that another priority, because we know that's important in terms of engagement. One of the things that we've really worked on this year is sort of as far as action planning and this whole concept of shared responsibility. I think this was something that maybe the team was hesitant to do at first, but just delegating. When we're at our meetings and there's something that needs to be done, or you know, something that needs to happen as far as inviting the community to the Olveus kickoff, or making sure that we're able to adopt a family for the Al Leadership Academy. As far as the school climate team working together, I think there was some hesitation in the beginning to feel like they had to be, you know, assigning tasks and assigning a due date, but that's how we get things done here. And this is a school where when they bite off something, they make sure that they can do it, and they can do it the right way. So that's been something that's helped move us forward in terms of taking action. Do we have other questions coming in? I'll go back and highlight some of the things. The Get Up, Stand Up Dundalk Just Be Nice was student-led, which again we found has been extremely helpful. We spent forever trying to come up with a slogan, and what did we want to catch on as far as not being a bystander but being an upstander. And we finally asked the students to give us input, and this was the slogan that was adopted for the Get Up, Stand Up, Dundalk Just Be Nice. And we also were able to involve the Baltimore County Health Department. They have a substance use prevention and violence prevention grant in this community. So those people who are involved in running that grant and running that initiative were, again, invited to our Olveus anti-bullying kickoff. We have the Super Bowl winning Ravens football team, and we had the mascot who was able to attend one of our events, which is pictured here with our Dundalk Owl. This is students signing an anti-bullying pledge. And again, the Olveus school-wide anti-bullying program is not something where they sign a pledge, they go to an assembly, and that's it. We have built the team so that the team is structured and split into subcommittees. There's a subcommittee that runs any school-wide activities, including the kickoff event. There's a committee that developed and sort of tweaked the classroom lessons and provided lessons that were linked to academic content to the rest of the staff, and they managed those classroom meetings. We have a subcommittee that manages the community component, and who, was working on getting some of the, trying to get some of the Ravens players, or at least the mascot, to be part of the kickoff event and other events that we have at the school. And then we have a subcommittee that handles the individual interventions. So again, we really try and split the load, make those implementation steps that we're interested in manageable, and make sure that they're relevant. We don't just try and assign extra tasks and duties just to do that. We use the data constantly to make sure that what we're doing is making an impact. I'm looking at a question about, I have seen the district adopt an initiative like One Book, One School, which is not evidence-based. It's an initiative rather than a school climate philosophy. How did you move beyond the defensiveness of the administrators and staff to adopting a true positive school climate? That's a great question. I feel like with Dundalk High School, we were really lucky in the fact that as a coach, I didn't have to work hard to get the buy-in from the administrator. I think he really saw the connection between high school completion and making sure that students feel safe and engaged in schools. I'm trying to think to any other situations where we've had anyone sort of be resistant or be questioning how school climate links into, I guess, AYP and academic achievement and graduation rates and those sorts of things that tend to be a priority as far as administrators. And I think, from what I found, I do think that most administrators recognize that, when kids struggle, it's most of the time it's not about, I can't learn this, it's too hard, or, I'm just totally not interested at all in graduating high school. I mean, we have almost 100% of students on the climate survey, and almost 100% of the parents say that it is important to complete high school. But most of the time, there are other things that are getting in the way of learning that keep them from finishing high school or being successful at school. And I think that people are really coming around to realize that. As far as school climate being a philosophy, I think that's really key. It does need to be a philosophy, and Dundalk's philosophy of we do whatever is needed for the kids, and we do it and we do it right, has made a huge difference. when we talked about layering supports, and looking at some of that dropout prevention data, the students who were at risk of not completing high school, originally before we had the Botson Life Skills curriculum being school-wide, it was originally done with one ninth grade cohort, and that was the cohort who was at risk of not completing high school. Then on top of that, they also got a mentor. Some of them on top of that also had a case manager, and they get the school-wide behavioral support. So they don't get one thing, and if it's not working, move on to a different intervention, and that's not working, move on to something different. We layer. We give them everything we can offer in order to make a difference.